Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkey with Startup Trading. It is 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. Sorry about that. May 6, 2020. So, looking back at yesterday's action, uh, as we had gapped up over Monday, kind of read, stayed at highs. Late in the day, right, we had that break and liquidation break just to come down. And really all that did was take out all the day traders, right? If you look at all the action, right, it was still substantially above Monday's action on Tuesday, which is bullish, even though it might not have filled it in that last hour or so. So keep that in mind that it's still a bullish setup for today. So as we look at the Dow, right, if you look at where the stocks closed for the day, right, a lot of them closed at the lower end of their range, right? Only United Healthcare and Walmart closed above their halfway back for the session. And as we look at, where the stocks closed green day over day, right? That's what we talked about. They were bought up. And then if you look at from the open, you can see not too much, down 120 points basically from the open and up 133 on the close to close. So looking at basically some of the news and whatnot here, we have ADP non-farm and employment change, that come out this morning. It showed a loss of 20 million jobs last month on ADP. So that's what they're expecting to show on Friday. That's the first look. So that come out at 8:15 a little while ago. And then tomorrow you got ECB and unemployment claims here in the States. And then the ECB rates at 2 a.m. and unemployment claims here in the States at 8:30. And then Friday, you have non-farm payroll. That's going to be the big news for the week. No real big earners as far as I'm concerned. That's going to move the indexes this morning. As of note, though, ironically enough, GM come out this morning and actually showed that they made money. Looking at the profile, so Ford lost $4 billion in the first quarter, and GM made $250 million. So go figure. So Ford might have deeper issues than GM, obviously. As we look at the profile and the action from yesterday, right, we closed at these lows. We've already, in the overnight session, went up towards the high of this, and we're back down basically right around the 67 to 68 right now. That we're trading. So we're trading this little node right here from yesterday. So there is quite a bit of overhead supply still, and we could get stuck basically in the early going here between 28.62 and 28.74. We'll see how that plays out. Looking at the NASDAQ, a little bit more of a choppy bag here. You can see that at 4:15, we're down at 89.24. But look at the different nodes. So you got a pretty good node basically at 89.50 and another pretty good node right around 89, 81, 82. So looking at the overnight action, 42.25 points. We had some underwater trades go off last night. As you look at when the session started, right, we went up, come back down below the water, kind of screwed around getting back over it. But once we popped over this water around 11 o'clock last night, really didn't look back and got stuck in value, right? So we're inside of value. Overnight high, right, is just barely above over value area high, sitting up here at 66.25. The overnight low all the way down here, basically under S1 down there at 43.50. So again, since yesterday was bullish, right? We're still in value for the most part for most of this session. Looking up above, we got 29.03, 29.16, and 29.29. But we have to break above yesterday's high and value area high to be able to do that on multiple indexes. Pay attention first of all to this downtrend line, and we'll notice that all the indexes have them. So we take that out, right? That's going to be a little bit more pressing, get back up towards that overnight high. Otherwise, we could chop and leak down and potentially go even lower and retest, all the way down to 2809. So you're looking at over 100-point range, depending on how this plays out. So read the tape, play the tape you have, not the tape that you want. So as we look at all the indexes, right, we got the Russell stuck below value area low. Value area low for the Russell is sitting there at 1271.40. Overnight high up there at 1286.40. And overnight low right on S1, basically around 1254. Looking at the NASDAQ, again, it's inside value, right? We already said the ES is in value. The Dow is inside value. So what does that mean? Well, they have to get out of value one way or another. So if you see 3 or 4 of these, either above value area high or below value area low, right? That's confirmation that people are willing to pay above or below yesterday's price, depending on which way that breaks. Being in value for 3 or 4 of these just means that people are comfortable basically trading the same prices they traded yesterday. Go figure. So as we look at the sequencing for overnight, we can see coming out of this low at 28.43 half, coming up to the high at 28.86 quarter for the session, right? We just, with that ADP, all it did was bring us into the halfway back long for the session on a micro setup. So basically it brought us into 28.65. So we'll see if this ends up holding, but the target up to that is 28.96 quarter. If that stays intact, your line in the sand is 28.59.75. So getting below 28.59.50 kind of makes it sloppy to not intact. Looking at the highs here, I'm going to actually blow this up for you for a second here. Looking at coming from the highs at 28.86, right? A little sloppy, but once we started going, right, we're holding these bearish draws, right? We're below the 38.2, leaking down. So really, the bulls need to take this back above 28.78 quarter, right, to make the bears squeeze, right? The bears, this is above this orange line. This is basically a stop line that I've marked for you. So the same thing, the stops for the bulls, right? They're below this orange line. So looking at the NASDAQ, what you've got is very similar. Traded off the 38.2, up, traded back down to the 38.2. Remember that ES hit the 50, the NASDAQ just barely hit the 38.2 off of this. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll blow up the bear draw for you on this one. So coming out of that high, right, same thing, sold the halfway back, sold the halfway back. Sold the 38.2. Now we're above the 38.2. That line in the sand is basically 89.75. So getting above 89.90, right? That's where the stops are for the NASDAQ bears. Moving on to the Russell. Russell is the weakest. I would stay away from it again as usual. Again, the left side of this chart is yesterday's action. The right side is the overnight since the session began. So as we look across here, we can see that the Russell is the weakest link. And again, we'll look at this. But even though it's the weakest, right, sloppy on this line in the sand, right, no stop run above this, but was breaking it. But I'm still going to watch this 1279.20, and I pay less attention to the Russell in general because it's forced me to do that because it's been the low beta play for 2.5, 3 years until the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? But it could be just going back to the doldrums again. But we'll see. Remember, the Russell is also below value area low. It needs to leak into value. I'm going to pay more attention to the value for the Russell than I am these sequences. Looking at the ES, right, we keep flirting with this 28.81 line, right? We got over it for a while yesterday, then hard flush down, right? Tried to get over it again in the overnight session, right? Flush down. So I think it's actually a little bit better for the indexes that we're starting below it, because if you push up now, you've got yesterday's high, the overnight high. It should be a little bit explosive, to be honest with you, and we could get some runs substantially higher here, and I would say at least all the way up to the 29.05, maybe 29.10 area of the chart. Looking at the NASDAQ, the NASDAQ very cleanly held 88.81, right? And the overnight popped back up. I'm not going to throw any lines on the chart, but the first resistance above is basically 90.38 and 90.58 is really what I'll be watching for resistance above. And of course, you know, below showing weaknesses, the first sign of weakness is going to get below 89.40. So a lot to watch with the NASDAQ there in a tight little range. And you can see how it's tightened up here. You had basically a shake and bake potentially so far. And this is the same thing, getting over that overnight high, getting over yesterday's high, should lead us up potentially all the way up to that 90.54 area. Looking at the Russell, and again, this is probably the one I'm not really going to mess with, but you can see getting back above 1284.30, if that happens, will be the overnight high, and then it'll probably shoot right for, you'd have to look, excuse me, hold on just a second. Okay, you'd have to look at the other chart, right, the value chart to get the segments off of that. But getting above 1284.30, right, it's going to lead you to yesterday's high potentially. And then there's some small resistance right at 1304.60. And then after that, there's really not a lot of resistance until you get up to 1355.10. So watch that as it plays it upside. Looking at all these charts, right? Watch these value areas. See if the Russell can get back into value. The Russell's going to need to get at least into value for these other indices probably to have a chance to break over value area high. I hope this helps. You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. If you like this 4-index profile or the way I do technical analysis, give me a thumbs up here on the video. And there's information about what I'm showing you at the in the bottom of the link. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.